Well, I figured while I'm in the middle of the rust repairs on my E30, what's better than having one hobby? Maybe jumping into a second one. So what I wanted to do as I start to work to put the rear of the car back together now that I've finished kind of the rust repairs there, I want to obviously put this, it's the European plate filler that sits between the taillights. But what I wanted to do was make a carbon fiber version of it. This is just plastic. It's already light, so I'm not doing it to save weight, but I think it might look cooler if it was carbon fiber. So what I'm doing in today's video is making the fiberglass mold for one of these, and then from that, hopefully it turns out well. The last fiberglass mold I did that was of the trunk wasn't my best work, but hopefully this one turns out better, and I can go ahead and then eventually make some carbon fiber parts out of it. So yeah, I'll clean this up, start getting the flange material glued onto this, and then I can start the prep for the fiberglass. That's just, I honestly think I just have dish soap in there, some water, just to try to clean this up. Obviously it was on the back of the car getting dirty, and it's been in the corner of the garage collecting dust and grime, so just a little wipe down. The plastic sheets mainly for later when I do the resin. I remember last time I kind of drip it off the side of the part, so just don't want to get it on my table right now, and you know, it's a couple dollars just to get some of these sheets and give me some protection on my table. This is just basic sign board. What I'm gonna do for the flange is basically cut it, have this so that I can glue it. I don't want to glue it just on here like that because I'll have this huge gap, so we'll make some more cuts, but right now basically I can't do it that way. I don't have enough on the edges. Can't do it that way obviously, so cut it in half, get it right about here. That's probably overkill. Maybe I will do it right in here. Just get an inch or two, basically every side of it, right in the middle. There are some lines on it, so maybe I can make it mildly straight. Let's just add a better pen. Let's see, here right about there. Run that over. Look at that, I picked the exact middle of the board. Go ahead and get this last cut done. It turns out this part of mold making by adding the flange on has always been my least favorite part. There's gotta be a better way to do it than just cutting and gluing this poster board onto everything. Next up was adding this blue tape. It's really just to kind of fill in the seams. Like I had the two pieces here, and I'm using it to fill that seam, and I put it over some of the indentations and holes on the actual part. The tape lines will show up in the mold, but eventually I'll just sand those down in the mold before actually putting the carbon fiber on. And then there was kind of a large valley here, so that'll just get me kind of a smoother surface in the corners, and like I said, fill the seams where I used multiple pieces. Now what I need to do is add my modeling clay just to get a better edge on everything. And I do have like glue that's seeping out, put too much on in some places. So adding the clay will help kind of smooth out the edges and give the edges a more defined edge, I guess. So that'll be a little bit better for the final mold product. Got my clay. Luckily, it is pretty warm in the garage, so it is kind of hand malleable. My biggest problem is always, you know, knocking my my flanges off as I do this, because I do have to push this in pretty hard to kind of fill in some of the gaps. Not a huge thickness of my part, so This is a fairly minimal job. I sometimes wonder if I can get away without doing it. Changed my mind on things, as you can obviously tell, and I did the clay all the way around. It was actually going on a lot easier than I've had in the past, just because I think it's so much warmer here today. It's a lot easier to kind of form the clay. But now it's time for the next part, and we're basically getting the release ready for the mold. So it's just waxing on this part all release wax, and then after that I'll do some PVA to make a nice easy to release surface. I will wax the flange eventually. I just don't want to get too much of the clay kind of mixed in across the board. So I just give this a couple seconds to flash off, and then we'll wax it off and do a few coats and then take care of the flange. Again, this is all just to get a nice, easy release. I think a bit of work now just makes getting the part out so much better. If nothing else, it's a little refurbishment on my part. You can tell that the black coloring is definitely looking a little shinier, a little nicer than how it was starting to look on the car. You know, it just catches grime and sits in the sun normally, so it was due for a little cleaning. PVA time, it's an alcohol product that helps with the release. Again, everything we're doing right now is just to help with the release. My cup's probably way bigger than I need. Don't have to put this down to like a certain thickness or anything, but we'll just pour some amount in there. Can always get more if I need. And I don't have a spray gun, so for me, it's just using a sponge and painting on a solid coating of it. Probably do a couple layers of this and let it fully dry, and then it'll be ready for the next stage. Sometimes I will notice this on my parts or on my mold afterwards, but luckily you can just kind of wash it off afterwards, so no issue there. It does give it a kind of a green tint afterwards, which is kind of fun. For my gel coat, I went ahead and got an orange one just because my part was black and I want the contrast, and it was hard for me to find the exact black that I already had. So I went with a different color. For this one, I don't have a ton of surface, so I think what I'm going to try to do is 4 ounces of the gel coat. Then I'll switch my scale to grams, and I'll do 2 or 3 grams of my hardener, I guess it is. And I'll see how well that does. Slowly poured out my 4 ounces, and let's pop that off. Switch over to grams. Let me tear it out. Yep. And then just like 2 or 3 grams, so it's not a ton. See if it even picks up on it. Okay. Now I really want to make sure I get a good stir on this. Make some room on my table, get a paintbrush, and get to it. Give that a little bit just to see how it might settle in, measure it, see if I need to get some more. So I have my gel coat. Looks just about tacky. You can kind of leave a fingerprint, but nothing's on you, so it's good to go. There's a few spots as it really dried, maybe settled a little too fast, but I think that'll be areas that I can fix once it's, that's going to be the front face of the mold. So I'm going to add a pound of my, what do I have? Laminating resin, and then with that one, I need 1 teaspoon of hardener, so it's easier to measure out this way. What a terrible way to pour this out. Anyway, there's 1 pound of that. And 1 teaspoon of that. Spend some time mixing this up. I'm gonna put some down, and then I have 3 layers of my fiberglass. I'm doing, I don't know, a nice sheet. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a 4-ounce sheet. And then I'm gonna do 2 layers of 1.5 ounce chopped strands. And it's not a big part, so I don't expect like a really sturdy mold. And I think those layers, honestly, is probably even more than enough. Just spread that out. The first layer doesn't really mean much, but I'll get the fibers on and wet it out. Obviously, as the fibers get wet, they turn what I would say translucent. So I at least know where I've been. I think so far it's looking good. I got to get a lot more resin on this side of the flange. That's my final layer. So now I just have to get that into place and then wet through. See, there's a lot of resin still on it, which is good. I like to work the creases first, really kind of get it locked into place. Luckily, this is a nice rectangle, so I know where everything is. It's all the resin, so now it's just working it in. Okay, I think that's about where I'm going to get it and fully wet through. So a couple little spots, but overall I don't really think I'm doing much more good to this. So it's the next day and my mold is nice and hardened overnight, so it's ready to be popped out. Hopefully it looks okay, and I'll do a final kind of evaluation of the, I guess, the part surface, and see if I can move forward using this mold to make some carbon fiber parts. So I think it's time to pop the part out of the mold and just see how well it is. I would say this is probably my favorite part of making molds, making carbon fiber parts. There's just something satisfying about hearing the part and the mold kind of crack apart and then seeing what the product looks like. Hopefully it's not too stuck onto my plastic mat. Nope. So I'll just kind of start wedging things in there, and hopefully all that prep I did will help release things. So obviously I have clay still on this. I have some of the PVA peeling off. So a little bit of cleanup obviously still to do, but it's, let's see, show it a little bit to the camera. No super clear pinholes from a quick look. And it looks like I'll have a nice kind of edge to define the part. And I got the lip at the bottom, which I was worried about. And yeah, like I said, I think I'll have to do a little bit of final prep work just to smooth out where all of the holes would be, where either the European license plate sits or the US license plate sits. Yeah, just a little bit of cleanup. And now to look at my part. Yeah, just PVA and clay. Nothing looks damaged on the part, so part can be reused. Hopefully this mold, once it cleans up, can be used. So yeah, a little bit of cleanup to go. So the mold cleaned up pretty well. A few areas maybe I'll probably try to smooth out a little bit more and polish this up before doing any carbon fiber work on it. But from my previous molds, this one is much better. So I'm pretty excited overall how it turned out. And you know, I went back to an easier part to try to do, and it, you know, it seemed to have gone well for me. You can see here there's maybe a little bit of a dark spot, so that's going to be a really thin layer of the gel coat. So like I said, I'll probably maybe add a little bit more there and try to smooth out some of the other bumps, and then go back, buff it, polish it, do whatever I can to just make this an even better part. But for now, this is good. I might even be able to pull a part right off of it, but knowing that carbon fiber is going to have a little bit of work to smooth out. So like I said, I'll keep trying on this one. But yeah, overall, pretty decent mold for me, and I'm excited to continue working on it. So yeah, I'll have some more, hopefully, fiberglass and carbon fiber videos coming up, but in the near future, it'll be back on the rust repairs for my E30. And with that, thanks for watching.